Ah, there you go.
Live.
Awesome. Welcome, everyone. I'd like to call to order our regular city council meeting for Tuesday, March 2nd, 2021. Would everyone please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Council. Sylvia, roll call.
Mayor Mays.
Here.
Council President Rosner.
Here.
Councilor Browse is absent, I believe, as is Councilor Griffin. Councilor Garland.
Here.
Councilor Young.
Here.
Councilor Scott.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sylvia. We have approval of agenda is our next item on the agenda.
I move we approve the agenda.
Second.
Thank you, Sean and Tim. All in favor of approving the agenda as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, Council. Next, we have the consent agenda. Today, there is just one item on the consent agenda. That is the approval of the February 16th, 2021 City Council meeting minutes.
I make a motion to approve consent.
Second.
Thank you, Kim and Sean. Discussion on the motion. All in favor of approving the consent agenda as presented, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Council. Next on our agenda is citizen comments. Sylvia, do we have any citizen comments for today?
Yes, Mayor, we do have one letter that we received, and I'll read it out loud for the council.
Thank you.
This letter comes from Brian Decker with the Ministry of Registry, Washington County Justice Initiative. And it reads, Dear Councilors, I write to comment regarding the March 2021 Sherwood Police Department policy updates. In particular, I urge adoption of the updated policy regarding vehicle pursuits. Because vehicle pursuits are among the most dangerous activities police undertake, it is important to limit them. This update represents a change from permitting them whenever the officer suspects that the vehicle occupant committed a crime to limited them to those circumstances where the officer suspects that the occupant committed a crime involving violence or a risk to public safety. It would be preferable for the policy to make clear that no property crime, drug crime, or misdemeanor suffices. My hope is that the council and the department will continue to work on such improvements. Still, this update is a step in the right direction. Signed, Brian Decker.
Thank you, Sylvia. And that's the only one that we received?
Correct.
Okay. Next on our agenda is recognition of Eagle Scout Award recipients. We have two outstanding Sherwood young adults to recognize this evening for both achieving the rank of Eagle Scout. We join your parents in being very proud of each of you for achieving this rank, and we will be sending you a certificate of achievement. We have a story about the project, the Eagle Scout project for each one. So first, let's hear about Landon Milan. I apologize, Landon, if I'm mispronouncing your last name, and what Landon did for his Eagle Scout project.
So, Mayor and the council, the project description submitted by Landon reads, my name is Landon Milan, and I received a letter that you will be honoring my achievement at the city council meeting. Here is the description of my project you asked for. My Eagle Scout project was making wooden boxes for children at Randall's Children's Hospital. The boxes came with craft supplies like stickers and paint to decorate them. I chose this project because my brother Asher had heart surgery at that hospital, and when he was there, he liked all the activities that the hospital had for him, and it helped him cope with his pain better. I completed most of my project in March of 2020, finishing up the boxes a few days before COVID shut everything down. Because of this, it wasn't until September that I was able to get the boxes delivered. I had many other scouts and our church youth group assist with assembling the boxes, and I had a few adults help as well. Thank you for recognizing me at the council meeting, Landon.
Well, that's awesome. As Landon alluded to, and prior Eagle Scouts have as well, that these are significant projects. Take a lot of time, often have to raise some money, receive some donations, and get help. And so it's great to hear that Landon got lots of help for sounds like a very good project. So we'll be giving Landon a certificate of achievement on behalf of the City of Sherwood and the Sherwood City Council. We congratulate you for your outstanding achievement attaining the rank of Eagle Scout. The second young adult that we want to recognize who also achieved the rank of Eagle Scout is Zachary Zeklars. Sylvia, what did Zachary do for his Eagle Scout project?
Zachary's project reads, my Eagle project entailed building new storage platforms and a ramp for the St. Vincent's de Paul Food Bank at the St. Anthony's Catholic Church in Tigard. Members of Troop 116 collectively spent 210 hours working on the project, and the construction and installation was completed on July 25th and 26th. I received more than twice as much money in donations as was needed, and the excess funds were given back to the food bank. Among the financial donations from community members, I received a large donation of lumber from Clark Lumber Company. All tools used were borrowed from Sherwood community members. It says, I am eternally grateful for the opportunity Scouting has given me, and I'm happy that I could be of service to the community. Signed, Zach Slars.
Zach, that's a great project, and I very impressed with what you've done as well. We're very proud of you. I'm sure we're can't be as proud as your parents are and family are of you, but great job. You have a bright future, and we're going to give you a certificate of achievement on behalf of the City of Sherwood and the Sherwood City Council as we congratulate you on your outstanding achievement of attaining the rank of Eagle Scout. Congratulations, Zach. Next on our agenda is new business. One item under new business, resolution 2021-014, approving Sherwood Police Department policy updates, March 2021. Chief?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. As always, great to be with you. And so we're going to go over these March 21 police policy updates. Pretty straightforward. You have the staff report in front of you that includes the background information. And so then I'll just go through the policy updates as they're listed for to review with you, and then also for the public's benefit that's watching at home. So first of all, Lexipol recommended to us that we renumber the policy to eliminate blank chapters and just allow the numerical order to be more cohesive. And so that's the first thing that happened. So if you have looked at the policy previously, you'll notice that in various, chapter 1, 2, 3, whatever, there would the numbering would go from 102 to 104, and then from 104 to 106, and there was just blank chapters in there. Most of the chapters were even numbers, and most of the odd numbers were left open. And so I guess we got to the point where Lexipol decided that the policy was pretty stable, and as I said, recommended renumbering it. So what you'll see now is chapter 100, 101, 102, 103, just as you would expect to see it. And I think it's going to be much easier to refer and read, but it obviously becomes important because if you're used to reading chapter, 102, well, that's a bad example. If you're looking for, chapter 212, its number may have been changed by several digits, and it may be now number 205 because of all the blanks that were eliminated. So it's important for folks to know that they're going to be looking at something different. Okay, the first actual section is 100 law enforcement authority. And in this chapter, as well as with several of these other ones, most of these contained what I call statutory number corrections. So within policy, there's references to state law, and those references are denoted by the letters ORS and then a series of numbers. Well, as the legislature updates statutes and makes changes to laws, those numbers get changed as well. And so obviously Lexipol has to keep up with those citations and those numbers. And so that was done in chapter 100, as well as switching from the term department to the term agency. So pretty minor change there. And what I will do, Mayor, is just kind of slightly pause after each one of these to make sure there's no questions or.
That'd be great.
Okay, chapter 300, use of force. As you know, this has kind of been a constant on our list for obvious reasons. It's a pretty important policy. But these were pretty simple updates this time around. Again, statutory number references corrected. Some very small language improvements. The biggest change was they added new language regarding respiratory restraints, and you'll see that in the I should have mentioned earlier, all these policy chapters are attached as exhibits. And so you'll see that new section in there. It's important to note that we were kind of ahead of this update because we had changed the language in the section dealing with chokeholds to include both vascular restraints of the blood and oxygen restraints in the respiratory system. Lexipol is now getting that language plugged in. So our policy language kind of duplicates itself, but frankly, I thought that was fine. And I see no reason to not have this section in there about respiratory, restraints. I think it just makes it crystal clear, and it's worth stating very strongly our position on that. Okay, chapter 307, vehicle pursuits. This policy had significant updates, and this was not triggered by Lexipol, but rather was triggered internally. We were getting questions, and our leadership team was having conversations with the officers, and there was some questions about the clarity in the policy language about what specifically officers could do and who could do it. In particular, the question of who could exercise control over pursuits. And I will just tell you, this was those conversations were triggered by a pursuit from an outside agency that came into Sherwood a few months ago on a late Saturday morning in Old Town. And that really generated a lot of conversation. And it, frankly, as you know, we have amazing people in the police department, and it's a credit to them that they bring these questions up and they're seeking clarity. So our leadership team took a look at that policy and made some changes, had some input with the officers, and we came up with a lot of changes to that pursuit policy. Once that was done, I sat down with City Attorney Josh Soper, and we went through the new chapter with all the new language with a fine-tooth comb. And I wanted to make sure that our city attorney, Josh, was comfortable with the language in there. And so obviously he's with us as well. And I'm just gonna kind of give him a second to add any comments he may want, because I think it's important that you get that input as well.
Thanks, Chief. Yeah, as the Chief mentioned, we went through this in detail, very carefully, and I'm really happy with the result. I think the Chief is too. I think it provides a lot of clarity. The language is very clear, but then it takes a really a balanced approach to managing risk and liability issues with also the practical needs of the police department, and giving the officers the clarity they need to know when to engage or disengage from a pursuit. So I was very happy with the process and the result.
Thanks, Josh. So yeah, in short, I think enough has been said on that, but I'll just add that the updates make the policy more restrictive and add the control and clarity that we wanted to get there. And of course, you got the citizen comment regarding that specific policy. So
Yep.
Any questions on that one?
Looks like we're good. Thanks, Chief.
Okay. 431, medical aid and response. So there was some language added regarding the administration of opioid overdose medication. So we refer to that as Narcan, but that is just that's a product name. But that's really what it's talking about. When we come on the scene and we believe somebody has overdosed from an opioid product, we can administer Narcan and basically save their life. Those overdoses very commonly can lead, and specifically an opiate overdose can very commonly lead to death if not reversed. And Narcan is the product we use, and we have had. I say several is a safe word, not a lot, but we've had several saves through the use of Narcan where we've Sherwood officers have brought somebody back. So Lexpol just clarified and added the language in there for the use of that, and then also clarified the requirement to provide first aid training, which was there, but they just kind of, as it says, clarified the language.
Hey, Chief, can I ask a question on that section there? It's not actually specific to anything you mentioned there. It's prior to the overdose medication, talking about the use of the AEDs, the automated external defibrillator. It does say that they should only be used by members who have completed a course. Is that most of your officers? How many of your officers are authorized to use those?
All.
Good.
And I will add to that. Yeah. So I almost wanted to say neither of what you said. It's not many or most, it's all, but.
Good. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And in fact, we have, through partnerships with TVFNR early on, they had a donation program. And then eventually, once we got everything established through our replacement cycle and our budget, it's our goal. And I think we're very close to have an AED in every operational vehicle that we have at the police department. So certainly every marked patrol car, but even an unmarked patrol car, there's one in mine, and I'm trained to utilize it. So should I be driving down the road in my chief's car and see something or hear something, I can absolutely turn in and provide that emergency life-saving effort as well.
Great. Thanks for that.
Good question. Okay, 600, investigation and prosecution. Not much to there, just some statutory number references and some language improvements. The same with 806, protected information. And then finally, chapter 1018, again, a statutory number reference. So that covers everything. These updates were taken to the Police Advisory Board during their regular meeting on February 18th, 2021. Councilor Kim Young was dutifully in attendance as the liaison, and the Police Advisory Board reviewed these policies and recommends approval of the updates and resulting policies as attached. So with that, if there's any other questions.
Thanks, Chief. Any other questions from council? That's a great update. Appreciate the hard work that you put into that, Chief, and Josh on the areas, and the fact that officers initiated some of those suggestions. That's outstanding.
Thank you.
With that, discussion from council on the resolution or a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2021-014, approving Sherwood Police Department policy updates March 2021.
Second.
Also moved and second. Discussion on the motion. Hearing none, all in favor of approving Resolution 2021-014, approving Sherwood Police Department policy updates for March of 2021, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Council. Public hearings. We have 2 public hearings this evening. Sylvia?
The Sherwood City Council will hold 2 public hearings this evening to hear testimony on Ordinance 2020-005, amending sections of the Sherwood Zoning and Community Development Code as it relates to the regulation of signs. This is the second hearing on this ordinance. And Ordinance 2021-001, accepting the addendum, the Sherwood Brookman Concept Plan, and adopting the associated amendments to the city's transportation system plan. This is the first hearing on this ordinance. The public hearings tonight will be conducted as follows. Staff will present a staff report. Questions, if any, by the City Council for staff. We will then consider the written testimony. And Council and Mayor, we have forwarded that written testimony to you tonight and earlier this week, and staff will introduce those items into the record. If not, I have them here as well. We will then we will then close the public hearing. Final comments by staff, questions of staff, if any, by the council, followed by council discussion. For the first hearing on the ordinance, council will hold 2 hearings prior to making a decision. A second hearing on this item is currently scheduled for March the 16th, and this is for Ordinance 2021-001. The second hearing again is scheduled for March 16th. For the ordinance tonight, that is for the second hearing, that's for Ordinance 2020-005. The decision may be made by the council at the close of this hearing, or the matter may be continued to a time and date certain. If the matter is continued to a time and date certain, this is the only notice of the date you will receive.
Thank you, Sylvia. So let's start with Ordinance 2020-005. Sylvia, was there any new citizen comment on this ordinance in the last week or whatever?
Not that I have received, Mayor, no.
Ditto. So before we even get a staff report, I'm interested in continuing this later this year, as I stated in our work session, so we can save time on a staff report.
Mayor, just a clarification, if you continue it for whenever, then whenever you decide to hear it, we will renotice. If you continue it to a date certain, then we won't have to renotice, but that's entirely up to you, whichever way you choose.
Thank you, Julia. So I was going to support a date certain. And I was thinking September 7th or 21st. Unless somebody had a different idea.
Either one of those dates works for me.
Sounds about
I'd be in
right.
favor of that.
Would one of you like to make a motion to that effect?
I make a motion to extend
Continue.
To continue Ordinance 2020-005 to date certain of September 7th.
Second.
Discussion on the motion?
Two things from me. One, I would be in favor of giving this an up or down vote. I think we've been continuing it on and on and on and on, and feel like we should do our business and move on. Secondly, am I correct in that when we last discussed this, we had several different options that have been presented to us, or is that something that, I know we had discussed it at one point in time. Is that something we should take up in a work session before we continue it? Because I think there was some different versions on the table, if I recall correctly.
Yes, my follow-up, great point, Doug. My follow-up, if council supports the motion to continue to September 7th, would be to have a work session on the options on August 3rd or 17th.
Thank you.
Further discussion? All in favor of continuing Ordinance 2020-005 to September 7th, 2021, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Thank you, council. Doug voted no. Motion passes. And Joe, if you could put in your forecast agenda, looking at August 3rd or 17th for discussion on the options.
Will do, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
That'd be awesome. Thank you. Second ordinance for today is ordinance 2021-001. Erica.
All right, let me share my screen. Just 1 second here. All right, I hope everybody can see that. So good evening, Mayor and Council. Before you tonight is the first reading of Ordinance 2021-001, the Brooksman Edition Concept Plan Refinement, which is proposing amendments to the 2009 Concept Plan and the associated Transportation System Plan amendments. Oops, come on. So a little background here. The Brooksman Concept Plan was adopted in 2009, and at that time, Brooksman Road was classified as a 3-lane local collector street, and the intersection of Brooksman and Highway 99 was shifted to the north. It was shifted to the north due to the potential I-5 connector project that would have been located to the south of Brooksman Road, and proper spacing between the I-5 connector and Brooksman was needed. So since that time, the I-5 connector project has not proceeded. Washington County has changed Brooksman Road, has changed the classification of that road to a 5-lane arterial, and the Sherwood TSP has been updated to reflect that change. So there have been several questions about the 2009 concept plan. Some of these questions include, is the realignment of Brooksman to the north still the best and necessary approach? What is the suitable road design for an interim 3-lane and long-term 5-lane roadway? And due to the classification change, are there land uses in the western sub-area of Brooksman still appropriate? So this image shows the 2009 concept plan. The dark black line from Ladd Hill to Highway 99 is Brooksman Road. So you can see that Brooksman jogs to the north, crosses the railroad tracks at almost 90 degrees, and then connects to Highway 99, just about a 1/4 mile north of Brooksman's current intersection with Highway 99. So again, why now? Why are we visiting concept plan? Well, we know that development is occurring in the area. Most recently, 3 subdivisions have been approved along Brooksman with roughly 230 new single-family homes, and additional annexations may happen in the future. So the existing rural roadway isn't safe for future traffic, pedestrians, and cyclists as it's currently designed. The future corridor may require additional right-of-way, and we needed to learn about how much right-of-way is needed to accommodate an interim 3-lane roadway and the long-term vision of a 5-lane roadway. So we also need to decide where the alignment should go. Looking at this alignment now helps to reduce potential conflicts with existing development. And then of course, the question, is there a better connection point with Sherwood West to the Brooksman area? So this project was started pre-COVID in the fall of 2019, and we held stakeholder interviews with property owners and developers in the Brooksman area. We also held an online open house in the spring of 2020, and postcards were mailed to all property owners in the Brooksman area and property owners 1,000 feet beyond the project boundary. Some of the issues that we heard, Brooksman doesn't feel safe. The road should accommodate all users. The road should maintain some scenic aesthetic qualities. The speed should be reduced, and that it should connect to the city in a meaningful way. So we had several agency and reviewing partners in this project. Washington and Clackamas counties, ODOT Region 1 and 2, ODOT Rail, and then Northwest Natural Gas, as they have a facility along Brooksman and Old Highway 99. So the Brooksman roadway alignment alternatives that were looked at. So the red line shows Brooksman Road as it is today. The blue line shows Brooksman as it is identified in the 2009 concept plan. So you can see that the road shifts to the north in the western sub area, and then dips a little to the south in the eastern sub area to avoid existing structures where it intersects with Lad Hill. And then the green line shows a new alternative of that eastern sub area that moves the road even further south to lessen the sharp curve in Brookman and to also avoid existing structures in that area. So let's just take a quick look at each sub area in more detail. So this image is of the western sub area. The 2009 concept plan requires extensive amounts of new right-of-way, which would be obtained through either a large redevelopment project or as identified funding for a future road project. It also creates a new rail crossing. A new rail crossing would be likely expensive and lengthy, and ODOT would likely require the closure of multiple existing rail crossings as well. The recommended option utilizes the existing right-of-way from the intersection of Brookman and Highway 99 West to the eastern sub-area of Brookman. It doesn't require significant new right-of-way, but we would acquire this right-of-way, either through dedication, or possibly through additional funding through a road project. So the recommended option aligns with Chapman Road, providing that connection to Sherwood West. So this is the western sub area. This is just showing that neighborhood node. Zoning was reviewed through this project, and that it was found that no significant zoning impacts were identified. Planning Commission has recommended and has been placed in the plan to add traffic calming measures when redevelopment occurs in this area to address concerns of cut through traffic. Also, Planning Commission would like to relook at the high density housing in this area in the future. So the Brookman Central sub area. So the recommended option here is to maintain the existing alignment in this area. As you know, and as I previously stated, 3 new subdivisions have been approved, and the access to these subdivisions are in the same location, or generally in the same location as the 2009 Brookman concept plan. So the recommended alignment here is to stay the same. We would make sure that we get enough dedication of the roadway to create that final 5-lane configuration for Brookman. However, we would only construct it to a 3-lane facility. Additional right-of-way on the south side of Brookman would be needed for that 5-lane configuration. But this area would also needs to be brought into the UGB, and properties would need to annex. And we're looking at a small amount of right-of-way. On that south side, about 27 additional feet would be needed to accommodate that 5-lane configuration, just because we're using the existing right-of-way that is Brookman Road today. So the eastern sub area, this recommended option takes a look at aligning Brookman to the far south on this image. This alignment lessens that curve and also minimizes impacts to existing structures. And it really took a look at the grade and what those cut and fills are in this area for that better alignment for Lad Hill.
Erica, I don't know if your screen has advanced. I'm still seeing the Brookman Central sub area.
Oh.
Looks fine for me.
Oh, maybe it's just me. That's weird.
Yeah, it's advanced for me.
Everybody see the cross sections?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. It's just me. That's weird.
Sorry. It happens.
Buffering.
So this slide shows the 3-lane current concept plan On the left-hand side, it shows in the middle the long-term 5-lane arterial roadway design, and then the 3-lane transitional roadway on the right-hand side. So the transportation network in the Brookman area was evaluated for the future year of 2040 to assess potential benefits and impacts of widening Brookman. The 3-lane and the 5-lane alternatives were analyzed. And a 3-lane alternative roadway with a turn lane was found to meet the travel needs for the 20-year planning horizon. The recommendation in the refinement plan is to construct Brookman as a 3-lane transitional roadway as an interim design, and then to as a 5-lane roadway is needed when that's needed to construct it at a future date. So the 3-lane transitional roadway would incorporate a shared use path on the northern side of the road for bikes and peds as well. So this slide is showing the Brookman Road preferred alignment. So based on meetings, the traffic study, the alignment analysis, and on-site research, the following has been recommended. The existing zoning should remain. The current alignment of Brookman at Highway 99 should remain the same, and this intersection should be signalized for a better connection to Sherwood West. A 3-lane transitional roadway should be used as the interim design until a full 5-lane roadway is actually needed. The 5-lane roadway should remain the official long-term design for Brookman. And the location of Brookman Road should remain the same in the center sub area. And in the east sub area, the southernmost alternative is preferred due to the grades and lessening of that sharp curve in the road. So just a brief overview of, once again, the concerns that we heard. We have reached out to Northwest Natural Gas several times throughout this process. They have reviewed the plans. They have told us during our meetings that they don't see any red flags, but through the final engineering and road design of the road, if constraints do arise, there are engineering solutions out there and that the road could be shifted to the north. Northwest Natural Gas submitted testimony today. It will be included in the second reading packet of this ordinance because it came in after our 24-hour public testimony requirement. So is the grade separated crossing, would it be allowed or could it be constructed in this area? And really this plan doesn't preclude a grade separated crossing of Highway 99. We've reached out to our agency representatives, but really kind of looking at this grade separated crossing can be done at a future time because this kind of analysis, needs to address the location, facility size, how it connects to Sherwood West. There'll definitely be impacts to the surrounding land uses. And then this project should be identified in the TSP, which would also include the cost of such a project.
Erica, this is Tim.
Yes.
On that last screen to emphasize, we just want a grade separated crossing. We're not saying that it has to be an overcrossing or an undercrossing. We just want it grade separated.
That is correct. Just a grade separated crossing. And once again, zoning was reviewed during the traffic impact analysis. We did also look at access spacing along Brookman, and it has sufficient spacing along the roadway. And when new development goes in along Brookman, those internal neighborhood roads are also reviewed to make sure there is connectivity and access. So just looking ahead here, there's a definite possibility just to explore a grade separated crossing in the Brookman and Sherwood West area, for efficient connection. We can take a look at the rezoning in the western segment of Brookman. We can definitely possibly explore a speed study on Brookman Road. And then of course, we continue to work with Washington County on safety improvements. Tonight before you in your council packet, staff has identified 3 alternatives. So those alternatives are identified on this slide. Council can accept the Brookman concept plan and adopt the associated TSP amendments that are needed for consistency and future implementation as recommended by the Sherwood Planning Commission. A city council could consider accepting the plan and TSP amendments as recommended by the Planning Commission, with a new insertion in the plan that identifies a segment of Highway 99 between the preferred alignment with Chapman Road and the current shifted alignment, which is a quarter mile to the north, as an area for further refinement for a future grade separated crossing. Or council, you can accept the Brookman concept plan addendum retaining the current alignment of Brookman Road that shifts it to the north. And with that, I can answer any questions that you may have.
Thanks, Erica. Just a reminder, this is the first reading. We'll have a second reading. You'll find that the letter from Northwest Natural, which I've seen, does not add anything to the conversation. Maybe we'll get another letter. I don't know. Erica, in a work session, you indicated a deadline. Did you reach out to Metro and say if the deadline is tied to getting funds from Metro, or is it a self-imposed deadline? Or
so the deadline is March 31st to complete this project and to make sure that we have all the deliverables in to Metro. And those deliverables, would be your decision, council's decision, final decision.
So my question at the work session was, to be clear, so we don't, let's say we give everything to Metro on September 30th. Can we and get reimbursed or whatever for the grant?
We won't get reimbursed for the grant if we don't meet the deadline.
And that's clear in communication from Metro?
Correct.
In writing?
I do not have that in writing, but if you would like that in writing, I can ask Metro for that.
Please. Because, yeah. Any other questions for staff before we ask about any new public testimony that we should read into the record? Okay. Sylvia, do we have anything we should read into the record that's not already in the packet?
Yes, Mayor and Council, and if I can just have Erica confirm, I do not believe that these letters that were emailed to the council are included in the packet. And one letter is from Aaron Wardell with Washington County, dated March the 1st. Erica, can you confirm that's not in the packet?
I can confirm that is not in the packet.
Thank you. The other, and I'll read that in just one moment. The other letter, Erica, if you can confirm, is from Mara Danielson with ODOT, senior planner with ODOT, dated for March 1st.
That is correct.
And that one is
not in the packet.
Thank you. And Erica, in that email that was sent to the council, there was an additional letter dated for November the 10th of 2020. Is that just backup information?
That's correct.
Okay, so at this point, Mayor and Council, if you want me to read that November 10th letter, please let me know. If not, I'll just read the most current one. And again,
we have 4 minutes for each one. So
okay, all right. So this first letter from Mara Danielson, senior planner with ODOT, dated March the 1st, 2021. In comments that were submitted in the November 2020, ODOT expressed support for the Brookman Road concept plan update recommendation to keep the Brookman Road intersection at its current alignment. The existing alignment maintains the intersection with OR 99W and Chapman Road which creates connectivity to the Sherwood West Urban Reserve. The city's transportation system plan has a project to signalize the Brookman Road / Oregon 99W intersection. ODOT understands that Sherwood leadership may be interested in studying a future grade separation of the Brookman Road / Oregon 99 intersection to address the anticipated increase in cross-highway traffic with the build-out of the Brookman Road concept plan and the Sherwood West growth expansion area. The existing alignment of the Brookman Road / Oregon 99 intersection does not preclude this option. As part of the development of the Sherwood West concept plan, the city will be studying the impacts to the transportation system, and this would be a good opportunity for the city to explore alternatives concepts to address the cross-highway demand at the intersection. This could result in upgrades to the city's transportation system plan to address the long-term needs at the intersection of Oregon 99W. Mayor, would you like me to read the letter from November?
No, that's okay.
Thank you. The other written testimony that we received is from, again, Aaron Wardell with Washington County Department of Land Use and Transportation. This letter is dated March 1st, 2021, and it reads, Washington County staff appreciates the opportunity to participate in Sherwood's update of the Brookman concept plan. As development occurs in the Brookman area, taking a closer look at the Brookman Road alignment was an important step to move forward. County staff supports Sherwood staff's proposed preferred alternative, which is also supported by the Sherwood Planning Commission. The preferred alternative maintains the existing alignment of the Brookman Road where it intersects with Highway 99W and Chapman Road. This matches the county's adopted transportation system plan alignment and is the ideal alignment for several reasons. It maintains existing intersection with Highway 99W and Chapman Road, which can be signalized and creates a connection to the Sherwood West Urban Reserve. It maintains existing rail crossing, whereas realigning the road would require creation of a new rail crossing. Creating a new crossing would be an expensive and lengthy process, and ODOT rail would likely require the closure of multiple existing rail crossings. It maintains access to all properties that currently take access from Brookman. It is possible to fund and improve the road incrementally, whereas an alignment would have to wait for large-scale redevelopment or an identified funding source. County staff understands that Sherwood leadership may be interested in studying a future grade separation of the Brookman Road / Highway 99 intersection. The preferred alternative does not preclude this option, and Brookman Road could be improved in its existing alignment at grade as an interim option while future grade separation is explored as a long-term solution. If Sherwood would like to study this option, it would be ideal to do so while doing the concept plan for Sherwood West. We look forward to further collaboration with Sherwood as the Brookman area develops. Sincerely, Aaron Wardell, Principal Planner with Washington County.
Thanks, Sylvia. Any questions of council for staff or discussion before we continue to, or before we close the public hearing? Well, we'll close the public hearing for the first reading of this ordinance. Any discussion or questions before we move on?
I guess just in light of what the answers around the gas line, and I think what Erica, I'm quoting you, is saying that, well, if it does become we don't think it's a problem, but if it is a problem, we can realign the road to the north a little, which sounds fine. I just think as we proceed, we need to make sure that we don't actually develop any property to the north of that before we're sure it doesn't need to be realigned. So I don't know how we accommodate that from a planning perspective, but I think we need to make sure we do, because we can't have a bunch of stuff develop and then be like, oops, sorry. My only comment.
Thanks, Doug. And my position hasn't changed from our work session the other day, and there's still more information needed. You'll see in the testimony from Northwest Natural, at least to the current letter, it's worthless to answer the question about the gas line. There might be another letter before the next meeting, maybe, we'll see. You don't know how deep the line is. You don't know how far a structure has to be from the line, or if you go over or under at that point, how big of a footprint you need for a grade separated crossing. Yeah, the whole end is still a mess in my book. Any other comment, question before we continue? Awesome. We will move on to next item on the agenda is city manager report.
Mayor and council, 2 items before I take any questions from council. One item, your goal setting, which was postponed due to weather earlier last month, has now been rescheduled for next Thursday night, March 11th, starting at 5 o'clock. It will be at the Arts Center. It will be in person. Staff is looking forward to a productive session next Thursday night. That will be a work session type meeting, open to the public. The other item to note is late this afternoon, we received word that Business Oregon has a new commercial rent relief program. We'll be putting some information out through various channels tomorrow. This is the first program that Oregon's offering for small businesses that have been affected by COVID, that may be behind in rent due to the pandemic. It opens up on Monday, March 8th. That will be the first round. It's for businesses with 100 employees or less, which in Sherwood is most of our small businesses. So we're going to want to promote that program. It's $100 million statewide, which probably will be oversubscribed pretty quickly. The state will use a lottery system. It will not be a first come, first serve. It'll be a 2-week period for businesses to, and actually the landlords have to apply in the process first, and then the tenants also participate. So we're excited that some money could be flowing to some of our businesses. It's probably not going to be enough, but it's the first step. And we'll have more information on our website and through social media channels tomorrow. So just wanted to touch on that.
So is that different than the landlord compensation fund that the county is doing?
Yes. This
Okay,
one,
so-
the one that you've been focusing on is more for residential landlords. This is the first commercial rent relief program that we've seen. So this is for commercial, focused on small businesses. And, you know, a lot of businesses have struggled through the pandemic and may be behind on rent. And then the rent moratoriums will eventually disappear. And how do you get caught up? So this is a program to help fill that gap.
Great.
So
Yeah, very good news.
any questions for me or senior leadership team that are still on the call, Mr. Mayor?
Any questions? Other questions? Did we know there's a rumor going around that the FBI came into town yesterday?
So yes, we saw that rumor. Chief Growth, are you still on the call?
I am.
Do you have any, if anyone knows anything, you would think our police chief would know a little bit more than the city manager, but I did see some rumors on various social media channels that the FBI was in town yesterday. So do you have any comments on that?
Nothing specific. I heard the same thing. Oftentimes, other agencies will visit our town to follow up on cases or investigations they're working, and they may or may not notify us depending on the circumstances. So we don't always get a call in advance. So
I would think, I don't understand why they wouldn't. Okay, in some sorts, okay, maybe not in advance all the time, but certainly preferably in advance or soon thereafter, notify local law enforcement. Even if they don't give the details, say, yes, we were here to serve a warrant, execute a warrant, something.
Well, I wholeheartedly agree with you, Mayor, and I will say that most agencies are pretty good. The scenario you just proposed about serving a warrant, would generally be something that I would absolutely expect a phone call about, so that, our members of our community aren't wondering what's going on with a bunch of folks with guns running around. So we would want to know about that. And frankly, I would be frustrated if we didn't get an advance call. But sometimes if they're just out conducting surveillance or just kind of trying to lay low, and there's no intention of any kind of enforcement contact or anything like that, we may not get a call on that. And frankly, I don't, there may be times when routine follow-up is done. We may have investigators that go into other communities to interview witnesses from crimes, and there would really be no reason to let the locals know in a situation like that. So the devil's in the details, right? And it depends on what's going on.
So Chief, I'm going to ask the question that maybe some of the council members, can we follow up and find out after the fact? Will the FBA respond to questions from your office?
Oh, absolutely. The FBI are great partners. Don't get me wrong. So I'm speaking in general terms. Specifically, yeah. And we have called them regarding some recent visits, and they've been very helpful. So yeah, they're good partners. But I don't know, without getting into details, which I just don't think are appropriate, because I'd be making some assumptions, and I don't know details, and I don't want to walk all over something they're working on. But
You said what you can say, it sounds like, so that's
yeah,
fair.
kind of. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Other questions for Joe or his team? All right, council announcements. Who'd like to start?
I'll start. I don't have much. I'll just piggyback off what Joe was talking about. But this is a landlord compensation fund being provided by the Housing Authority of Washington County. There's about $150 million in this fund. They're opening a first round of applications. The application deadline is this Friday, and they're opening about 50 million. And this is a program where the tenant, or where the landlords apply, and they would get 80% reimbursed of the arrears, but the landlord has to sign off that they will wash the other 20%. And they basically have to get a declaration from the tenant of some sort. So again, that application deadline is 4 p.m. this Friday. And I'm sure there's lots of landlords that could apply for that. So just putting it out there. It's also on my council page with links and more information on where to go. That's all.
Awesome. Thanks, Kim. Other updates?
I guess I'll jump in with a few. The Cultural Arts Commission is in the process of doing a pretty neat public art project, which you should all be seeing very soon. So I don't want to give too much away, but if you happen to be out and about, walking around, probably starting tomorrow or so, keep an eye on some of the sidewalks and other areas around town in our public spaces and parks, and see if you see something new. So I'm gonna leave it a little mysterious, but Public Arts or Cultural Arts Commission has a fun little project that they're working on. So keep an eye out for that. Also, another thing, I guess, keeping an eye out, as we were kind of discussing before the council session started, and I'm sure most people know, we have kids going back to school, starting as early as next week in our elementary schools. So start getting used to slowing down through those speed zones. If we're not already enforcing that as of now, I imagine that we certainly will be starting next Monday once the elementary schools are back in session. So please slow down, observe all speed limits and crosswalks in front of those schools. These kids have not been walking to school in a while now, so they may be a little little jumpy getting out in the roads. So heads up there. I think one other thing just to mention is our House District 26 Representative Courtney Neron, some of you may know, has monthly virtual coffee and conversation session. So she's going to have one coming up this Saturday at 11 a.m. If you just check out her social media pages, she has some information on how to RSVP for the Zoom meeting, but those are very helpful opportunities to get some information from our Sherwood, our representative of Sherwood, and also to ask some questions on what's going on down in Salem. So check those out. They're obviously free, and they're a really good opportunity for everybody to become more involved in our politics. So I think that's it.
Thanks, Sean. Doug?
Not too much. Planning Commission held a public hearing last week on the recommending adoption of the new Parks Master Plan. I believe that was continued. It was a very long and healthy conversation. I believe that was continued to their next meeting. So presuming it gets pushed forward there, then we'll see it in front of us after that. In addition, they got an update on some of the housing design preference surveys. There was a lot of responses, well over 1,000, I believe, and maybe I'm misremembering that, but there was a lot of responses to the housing design preferences that the survey that we put out to the public in regards to developing residential design standards for housing across the city going forward. So there was good debate about that. And that if you're interested in either one of those topics, I definitely recommend you watch the Planning Commission hearing. Like us, they're streamed live on YouTube, but they're also saved up there as well. So you can go and find that from last Tuesday and watch that. So those are the bulk of my updates, Mayor.
Thanks, Doug. Tim?
So I got a few things. I met with, Bruce Coleman and I. Bruce Coleman's our fearless economic development manager, does a wonderful job. We met with NAOP, which is a commercial real estate development association here in the Oregon area. And basically the purpose of that meeting was to promote Sherwood as a place for companies to bring jobs and do commercial development within our city limits. So we talked a lot about projects that are going on and opportunities that exist within the city limits. And we talked quite a bit about Sherwood West as well, and some opportunities that may be out in Sherwood West for some of those groups to help us promote. They also agreed to help us out as we do our Sherwood West relook, which would be great to get their input. I also had a few conversations and meeting with CFM, who's our consultant, lobbyists that help us out on issues in Salem. Now that Salem's running the long session, they have over 3,000 bills on their docket. Hopefully that will get whittled way down, but there's a lot of those bills are bills that we have specific interest in as a city. We've prioritized a lot of that, and we're working with CFM on making sure we're lobbying correctly down in Salem on those bills. And you might see a few of us testifying in the coming months on some of those bills in Salem. And then the last thing I'm just going to mention, we're still in the moderate risk category for COVID-19. I follow those numbers daily. We're hovering right on that line between moderate and high risk. So everyone just keep doing a good job of practicing social distancing and wearing a mask. Let's stay down in moderate risk, help our businesses out, our ice rinks, our entertainment centers, our restaurants, and all the other businesses that are now allowed to be open, and help them out by doing our part. And I think that's all I have. So I will pass the torch.
Thanks, Tim. Quickly, I participated in the annual Washington County Coordinating Communication Agency budget meeting last week, which was fine. It's a 911 group. I've done that for quite a while, but as a citizen, not related to being an elected official. Certainly continue to be involved with League of Oregon Cities in a weekly or bi-weekly President's Roundtable with electeds from around the state, which is enjoyable. This evening was with cities in the far eastern Oregon, like Little Vale and Haines and some other great towns over there. And busy tomorrow with more League of Oregon City stuff. So I'll keep that brief. Anything else for the good of the order before we adjourn to an executive session? Hearing none. With that, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Be safe, shop local, get scheduled for vaccinations.